My name is Mike Valazza. I head up global business development for Catalent Pharma Solutions. But beyond just business development, I've had a long operational experience as part of my career. And at one point, I was working for one of the major equipment companies, really specialized on technology transfer of their equipment. So I've picked up a lot of experience on operationalizing manufacturing suites, and also have run a plant in my prior life. So what I'm really here to talk about is Catalent. A lot of people know us as a development partner with a lot of intellectual property around drug development, but we're also just as nimble and as far as creating flexible manufacturing suites, especially as needed by today's market. Some statistics about Catalent, if you're not familiar with us, just pick out a few. I mean, we work with over 1,000 customers on in over 80 countries. We have 31 facilities on 5 continents. We manufacture 7,000 products, and that's across branded pharma as well as generics and consumer products, and delivered 70 billion doses globally in our last fiscal year. But more importantly, with Catalent, in order to be able to deliver flexible, customized suites, we need to have a certain amount of financial rigor with our business. So you'll also see that in our fiscal year 15, we had close to $2 billion in revenues with a 24% EBITDA margin, which allows us then to have the cash on hand to be able to work with our clients to be able to deliver flexible manufacturing solutions. In today's world, if you look at the API that's coming through, most of them these days tend to be OEB level 3, level 4 compounds that require more specialized handling. And hand in hand with that is a demand for more customized business solutions, working together with your contract manufacturing operations as partners, joint ventures in many cases, to get products to market. There's also industry consolidation going on these days where as 2 businesses combine into one, they're products that no longer have a home because the facility is going to be shut down, or they need to be divested in order to meet the regulatory requirements of the financial industry. So those products then need to have new manufacturing places identified, built, or in some cases, in-sourced products then become outsourced. No matter which is the model you have, whether it's in-house development that you scale up totally within your building, commercialize yourself, or you're looking at an older product being transferred across to a new manufacturing site, it all begins with technology transfer. You can't get around it without doing at least one technology transfer, because nobody's developing a product at the bench scale and then commercializing at the bench scale. And that's where the size and scale and breadth of Catalent makes us a logical partner for you in that situation. We really have focused on 4 platforms that I want to emphasize here. And you can even couple them 2 by 2. So if you look at the special handling and the customized suites, with the products that need special handling because they're cytotoxics or potents, they could be hormonal. In many cases, you're doing those in a dedicated suite. But in many cases, you also have a piece of equipment that is needed for the processing that's not readily available, that again needs to be put into a dedicated suite based on the volume. So whether it's special handling or just manufacturing capacity that you want dedicated to yourselves, Catalent has the capability to do that. If you're looking at network solutions and then going back again to technology transfers, there's a lot of those that are hand in hand, because our breadth allows us to have facilities globally throughout the world to be able to handle your distribution needs, to get your product where it needs to be, whether it's developed and then moved into Catalent and launched through a technology transfer process, or already commercial, and you're looking to move it to an outsourced arrangement, or from one outsourced provider to another, or a second site of manufacturing, just in order to be able to rationalize your network. So again, when we look at flexible solutions, we kind of put it on one of those 4 areas. So just want to step through them a little bit here, starting with technology transfer. As both of you know, when you're early on in product development, you know you're going to have to transfer the product at least once in the scale-up, if not to commercial. And it's really important to define what the target profile is going to be for the product. Is it a controlled release product that requires sustained release, or are you looking for a pulse release? You know, are you doing an injectable product where you want a specific site of delivery? Really important there then is to identify the critical quality attributes and link those attributes and process parameters together to the critical quality attributes. In product development these days, very hard to get the FDA to act on your submission if you're not following quality by design principles. And those quality by design principles need to be established in that design space in order to link all your parameter inputs back to what are the critical quality attributes. As you build that those reams of data, at the end of the day, you're justifying the variables that you're using and coming up with a strategy for control and ultimately to scale up. At that point, if you have a rugged formulation, you're comfortable with your variables, and you've identified whether the API is light sensitive, heat sensitive, shear sensitive, you're able now to put your team together to enable a successful technology transfer. At some point, you need to bring the bench people, the pilot, and the production people together to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what's going to go on in the process. If you already have a product that's already commercialized and you're going to move it to a new site, you still need to revisit all of the work that was done earlier in case you have something come up that's unexpected as part of the transfer. So I like to point out, you know, in successful technology transfers that I've been involved in, they tend to always have these key members of the team involved. Some of them are only in there briefly. Some of them are there from day one up until the day that the transfer is executed. You have a technology transfer manager or a project manager that's over the entire process. You need to have a technical lead or leads, especially if you're doing development at one site and moving to another site for scale up. You need to have that development lead from both sites, or if you're using a contract development house and then go into another house, whether it's internal or external, you need to have that technical lead involved. You need to bring production in both upstream and downstream. What I mean by that is if you're scaling up, you don't want to leave the guy from the pilot scale behind when you're in the commercial scale, because there's lessons to be learned and to be taught both upstream and downstream in the process. QC, QA, validation, these are your core members. But the members that sometimes are left behind that people don't really think about that need to be part of a successful technology transfer is someone from materials to control group. Are the excipients that you're buying in Europe the same quality if you're going to now bring the product into America or into Asia? Who's managing all of those vendors? Facilities and engineering. Do you have good design study of the flow of the materials? Can you keep your safeties there too? Can you keep your staff safe? Have you looked at the MSDSs? Do you really know how to handle the process? Are all your transfers controlled so that people aren't exposed to dust? So those people need to be part of the technology transfer team. In some cases, if you're using a third party, like Catalent, you need to have a finance person as part of there to manage the budget, right? So those people need to be part of your technology transfer. The other pitfall I often see is people don't get the production team involved early enough. If you're in a pharma company, you're going to develop a product that you want to outsource, the sooner you bring the production people on board and bring their expertise to help you design your process, the more successful it will be. Again, you need to review all your technical reports on the formulation API. Nobody should be forced into hitting a timeline on a budget. They need to raise their hand and say that that timeline is not acceptable. So communication is key there. The other one I typically see is people forget they don't want to make an extra batch at the same lower scale, but it's really important to make an R&D batch at both the lab and the pilot scale, and in many cases a demonstration or engineering batch before you actually start on the validation commercial batch records. I'd say the other thing that's really important in a technology transfer is you probably transfer the methods more than you actually transfer the process from lab to lab. So it's really important that you have robust analytical procedures and that you actually take an operator, an analyst, from the one site and bring them to the site that's receiving the methods. I've actually seen trouble one time where the methods were transferred, but the amount of days that they actually kept the stock solution caused a problem in the way the product was tested. And everybody read all the procedures and said they were doing the same thing, but somebody made a fresh batch every day, and the other guys, their SOPs allowed them to keep that same stock solution for 72 hours. And there was a difference. And we spent a lot of time just redoing batches commercially, and really the problem was in the analytical lab. Some other ones here, just give a key point. I've seen trouble there also with API vendors. You're making real small batches as you're doing development, but all of a sudden the particle size or some other critical attribute related to the active changes when you try to make tens or hundreds of kilos at a time. Really important to identify that and lock that down before you spend money making commercial batches or transferring sites, because those are more variables that are entered into the equation. Going back to the earlier slide, if you don't really have all your critical processing parameters nailed down. I once had a situation where the pump was different on a fluid bed process, and no one called out what exact pump was being used. It was just apply the solution at X liters per minute. And at one site, they were using a piston pump that withdraws and pumps in, so over a minute, they're delivering the same, but it's actually coming out in surges. The other site was using a gear pump, which was delivering a steady stream, looked like your faucet when you turn on water. They both followed the batch records, but there was subtle difference there. Excipients I mentioned already earlier, but again, if your excipient is EU grade versus USP grade, that's really important to make sure that those are the same. And again, I can't mention enough about sampling methods or test methods from the analytical perspective. Really important to make sure that those methods are the same. So that's kind of tech transfer. That's involved in all the solutions, the flexible solutions that Catalent offers. I wanted to take a minute now to talk about the first case study here, which has to do with building customized suite. So we have a customer in Catalent called Zambon. They are a European pharmaceutical company predominantly. They had a product in their pipeline which was going to be the first new Parkinson's product in 20 years. All of their facilities in Europe are European-based, meet all the regulatory requirements for a European facility. They want to have a global product. They don't have an FDA facility. So they came to Catalent. We worked together with them to create a manufacturing space within our facility in Germany that was FDA registered and able to then manufacture their product and distribute it globally. But beyond that, they wanted to make sure that they got their product out to these needy patients as soon as possible. So we created multiple scenarios around labeling, packaging, so that the minute the FDA approved their product, we can have their product launched and out into the distribution channel. Happy to say that this past May, the first SKUs were launched under the brand name Xadago, and we're looking together with Zambon to see a positive effect on Parkinson patients from this new drug. Second case, again, a special handling suite in this one. This was one that was an orphan drug. Customer came to one of our development facilities at Catalent, entirely looking to engage us on just drug development. We took their product through development to scale up, and along the way had a discussion with them, well, where are you guys going to manufacture this? Long story short, their answer was, well, we really don't know. We're looking for a partner. Again, they're working with one of our development sites. No reason why that site has to remain a development site. So we engaged with them because we had the expertise there to build a custom, dedicated, high-potency containment suite around their API, around their product. And now this facility within Catalent is no longer only a development facility, but it's a development and manufacturing facility with potent capability. So again, engaging the dialogue, working with a partner that has the breadth, but the flexibility and nimbleness was key in this case to get this product to the market. Because otherwise, they would have had to then take it, tech transfer it again for the third time to another facility because it was somewhere first, came to us, but now it stayed with us within the facility. We avoided a technology transfer outside the facility. We just needed a scale up. With cytotoxics in our softgel business, we have a self-contained, totally separate cytotoxic suite within the facility. Most of our pharma partners don't like to hear cytotoxic commingled with other products in the same facility, but we build a plant within a plant in Eberbach. The HVAC is isolated. All the quality control testing around the key equipment is dedicated to those products. So again, we're able to have that capability to build a flexible manufacturing solution with a plant within a plant using this softgel example. But we're not just limited to big pharma products. At Catalent, we're also dedicated to animal health and consumer health products. So when I say case studies in progress, these are products that are in development right now. Can't give you the end solution because we haven't launched yet, but we have built another self-contained, in this case, pre-filled syringe suite within our Brussels site for animal health. Because of the Anvisa rules, we need to be able to separate animal health products from human health products, and we're able to do that in Brussels. Very similar to what we're doing with the products with cytotoxics in Eberbach with softgels. And finally, another case study, what I'll call in progress, is we've built a self-contained oral granule manufacturing and packaging suite dedicated to consumer health products in our Somerset, New Jersey facility. So there's opportunities there, whether you're in big pharma, generic pharma, animal health pharma, consumer health, to work with Catalent to build a flexible, nimble, dedicated manufacturing solution for your product. We continue to invest in manufacturing space. Just within the past year, we've opened up a $52 million expansion at our Winchester, Kentucky flagship oral solids facility in the United States. We acquired Micron Technologies, which adds particle size engineering capabilities to our drug development portfolio. 6 out of 10 API have poor solubility issues and absorption issues. And adding particle size manipulation by doing engineering of the particles to our portfolio allows us to have another solution to help you get your product made bioavailable and absorbed and get that API to market. If you come by the Catalent booth this week, we're introducing our OptiForm solution suite, which is all about working together, early stage development to get your API into the dosage form that's most suited to it. In our Somerset, New Jersey facility, beyond the expansion we've done into consumer health, we've added potent handling and additional manufacturing capabilities at that site. So again, similar to the example I mentioned earlier with our Kansas City site, in Somerset, we're taking a facility that was long looked at by the industry as a development center and adding manufacturing, flexible and dedicated custom manufacturing to that facility. In many cases, using a development and scale-up facility for manufacturing works beautifully for the volumes that are required for anti-cancer drugs, right? Oncology drugs tend to be in the tens of millions in demand, and they really don't fit into huge flagship oral manufacturing or sterile facilities. You need to really have flexible manufacturing around those, and we offer that. You know, our softgel facility, we've now have coating and packaging in our softgel facility. Before, if you know, softgels were softgels. If you needed to coat them, many people didn't coat them, where they had to find a solution somewhere outside in an oral network that's used to doing tablets. We now have coating and packaging in our Eberbach, German facility. And finally, we've expanded our potent and cytotoxic clinical packaging capabilities throughout our clinical packaging network of over 50 depots throughout the world. But I leave you with a final thought. There are many other options that you have, whether it's to build internally or whatever, to do manufacturing. The real key is finding the one that's flexible and nimble enough to be able to do that. But beyond that, what is their operational and quality record? What are some considerations for you to think about that I think would lead you to Catalent? You know, as you're evaluating potential partners, are they productivity and performance metric driven? Do they measure themselves the way you measure them? Or do they have their own metrics that make them look better to themselves than you are? Do they practice lean or Six Sigma to be able to drive costs out? If you're going, getting into a partnership with somebody around a dedicated suite, you're full in. So what is that partner going to do to drive costs out over time? Will they share their statistics and their ability to do so? Again, you don't want to get in with a partner that's going to get you in regulatory trouble later. So do they have good environmental health and safety rigor? Are they able to protect their workers? Do they have a culture of quality and regulatory compliance? Or are you going to be at risk of recall at some day in the future? When you walk through their facility, does it look like a recall? Does it look like it's out of capacity? Do they have the ability to reliably supply? And finally, again, from a cost point of view, if you're getting involved with somebody and they're doing all the sourcing and everything for you as a sole source and a dedicated suite, they're also going to be auditing the vendors that are making the syringes or the bottles or supplying some of the excipients. So what does their vendor audit program look like? Is it as rigorous as yours? A lot of times these fall under the radar screen. People don't consider them, and they make a bad partnership decision. So I just want to leave you with that thought and ask you to keep Catalent foremost on your mind should you have the opportunity to move a product from facility to an outsourced facility, or if you have that need for creation of nimble, flexible manufacturing.